So now we are back with another entry in the 𝗟𝗶𝘁𝗶𝗄 interview series. And today I'm with Mike Wootton from good old New Zealand. And Mike describes himself as helping SMEs smash their goals through proper digital marketing. So I'm really excited to sit down and chat with him because, as I understand, he's got 15 years of experience and he's really been in the game for a long time. So yeah, I'm really excited to have you, Mike.
Thanks. Yeah, thanks for wanting to jump on a call with me. It's been good getting to know you virtually, so it's nice to, I guess, have a chat. Still virtually, but at least we're in person this time. So
yeah, no, I mean, especially was I right with that number that you've been kind of involved for 15 years? That's the number I picked up on.
Oh, no. So I've been working in the online space for 15 years. I've been working in the sponsorship space for 15 years. So I do two different things. One is I run a digital marketing agency, and one is I work in sponsorship as well. And the sponsorship stuff I've been doing for over 15 years.
Oh, amazing. I mean, that must also be interesting to see the change from maybe not as strong digitally focused back in 2005-ish days, and then that getting introduced. That must have changed the game quite a bit in regards to sponsorships and how you go about that.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, definitely a lot of old school thinking when I first got involved anyway. And I think a lot of people looked at me as a little bit crazy. In fact, I was studying it at university, and I had to get into debates with my lecturers just to get them to approve certain assignments around sponsorship. Because they couldn't understand it, and then I would debate them and have to take on the head of department to say, this is what I'm doing my thesis on. I would make my case, and then they would end up giving me top student or something after I could actually produce it, and they gave me the go-ahead to do it.
Yeah. So, I mean, just for a bit of clarity for everyone, when you say sponsorships, how would you describe that? Like, how would you define that?
So sponsorship is essentially, let's say, for instance, you run an event, a charity, or you have a sports team or whatever it is, right? And you want to go to a brand to get them to sponsor you, to give you money. So that there is sponsorship. And there's two sides of the coin. There's obviously, how to get sponsorship and what to do with sponsorship if you're like an event or something. And when you see big sports teams and they've got sponsor logos, etc. on them, how do you go around getting that and what do you do with it? And then the other side of the coin is, if you're a brand, why would you use sponsorship as part of your marketing mix and how to use it to get a return on investment?
So do you help with both sides of that, is getting the sponsorship funding and then also, okay, now that we have it, what do we do with it?
Yeah, so I look at it as two separate streams of work. One is rights holders or people who are seeking sponsorship. And then the other side is brands and corporates who are the ones paying for sponsorship. And so I will help out both parties depending on what their needs are. So I will help brands to get more from their sponsorship, identify good sponsors, good sponsorships to get involved with. And from a rights holder / sponsorship seeker, I will help train them on how to get sponsorship and then how to keep it and use it to the best of their ability.
Okay, cool. So when you speak about, you mentioned sports teams and things like that, but when it comes to the term SMEs, is there a specific group that you've like really focused on that you enjoy working with?
So when it comes to SMEs, that's more talking around my digital marketing agency. So I also run a digital marketing agency, and I primarily like working with mainly B2B and service providers. And the reason being is there's a lot of really good marketing automation that you can do for those businesses to help them save a ton of time and a ton of money. And the thing is I focus on my ideal people that I work with as businesses with 5 employees or more. They understand the value in digital marketing, and potentially they've been burned before in the past by going down the cheap route, or they they understand the value in the technology, but don't necessarily have the time or the know-how to be able to implement it in their business, but they want to get it done. Those are my favorite clients and favorite people to help.
Okay. I mean, is there a specific reason they're your favorite? Is it mindsets? Is it
yeah, the reason why they're my favorite is because if you find someone who's just trying to get a cheap price, they don't see value in what you do. The reason why I go for businesses that are more than 5 employees is because they've typically got a little bit of budget and they're comfortable. And if you've got to 5 employees, you understand that marketing's a valued part of the business and you need it. And I like to work with people who understand the technology but don't know how to do it, because you're not having to educate them and coerce them the whole way or try and convince them on why something's good for their business. They typically get it really quickly and they're like, perfect, yes, I've seen that before, I want it.
So it kind of cuts out that big almost initial education step, and also like the lot of hand holding that might go on. They're like, oh, I don't know what this is, what's this, what's that. It's like they already have a feel for what everything is.
Yeah, and this sounds bad, but there's a lot of I guess there's a lot of like online gurus and things out there who are willing to take your money and give you a course, etc. And I both like and dislike them. One, I dislike them because they don't, in my opinion, a large portion of them don't actually provide a ton of value. They don't give you a ton of support. They take your money and they go, here, here's a bunch of pre-recorded courses, and whether or not you succeed or not is kind of all on your shoulders. But I like them for the fact that if someone's done that, they understand technology typically a lot better, and you know, I can work with them and help deliver everything that they've learned on this course.
Okay, it sounds like you almost become a bit of like a further educator and mentor as well for them, because they already have an understanding, like they know what these terms are, what these things are, and then you're also showing them how it can be done properly, how it can be done in a better way, etc. Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. So we really okay. So you've been in the sponsorship world for 15 years, right? And then the digital marketing world, how long that been now?
So I guess I got into digital marketing through sponsorship. So it became a natural part of delivering sponsorships and realizing a return on investment. So that kind of piqued my interest. And then in 2014 is when I first started sort of doing stuff for myself online, starting to build online businesses. I started to play around with building websites and learning all of that. And yeah, from then on, I started doing courses and built my own. I think in 2015, I launched my own digital marketing agency.
Yeah, actually, now that you brought it up, I can see how that would be a natural transition, because you go get people sponsorships and funding, and then it's like, okay, what do we do with the money? So it's like, hey, well, let's build effective systems to get our message out there, to bring more people in, give them more value. And that's naturally what digital marketing should be.
Yeah, correct. So I mean, like, you know, a lot of the ways that you're getting return on investment with sponsorship is you're creating branded content, you're putting it out on your social media feeds, you're building landing pages and microsites, you know, and you're getting involved in a lot of the stuff, creating content. And then I was like, oh, yeah. And the thing which kind of got me really interested was I was working for one of the big banks in New Zealand, and they've obviously got a pretty good budget, and I had a good budget to work with. And we were working with sort of top of the line marketing agencies, like global marketing agencies. And they were coming, we'd asked for like a social media video, something that's a quick fire video, maybe a minute long, that we're going to put out. It might be a showcase reel of a event that we sponsored and our involvement in it, so we can put it out to our customers, right? And they would come back and they would pitch a 1 minute video at around around $20,000-$30,000, and they would go and we'll build a landing page to put it on, and this landing page, and we'll talk around the competition and a whole bunch of other stuff on this landing page that will be up for a month. And the landing page cost $20,000. And then when I figured out that I could do this stuff within a couple of days and I could build it for next to nothing, I was going, man, we're getting ripped off. Like, you know, like people could whip out one of those videos, you know, real high quality. Maybe you're paying 4 or 5K tops for a high quality video, which could be you can get that done within, you know, 2-3 days tops. And building a landing page, you can get that up in a day or 2 days tops if you're going real high end.
Yeah.
And for next to nothing. So, you know, that's what really got me into it, when I was like, man, like there's companies out there charging 30, 40, 50 grand for stuff that I could do. And I mean, like, and I thought about it, I was like, man, small businesses couldn't afford this. Yeah. So I could offer it to them, same quality, and help them compete with the big guys for like a fraction of the price.
Yeah. Also, the interesting thing you mentioned is like they just had these big budgets. And I've heard that a few times, in that like government agencies, companies, they have these budgets and they have to spend them. Otherwise their budgets go down the next year. And they're like, hey, we got 30, 40 grand. What kind of return can you give us? Like, what can you do for us, type of thing.
Yeah. And it was interesting. It was, I openly heard people talk about bank tax, meaning that because you work for a bank, a lot of suppliers who were in with the bank, they would naturally just chuck on 20% purely for the fact they know you've got money.
Interesting.
So they would add 20% to the bill purely because they know they can get it.
Yeah. Okay, that's really cool though. So in the sponsorship world for 15 years, and then about 5-6 years ago, that's when you started going more the digital marketing web agency route, right?
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
Cool.
Except now I've moved away from, I don't do websites anymore. I now focus more specifically on landing pages and funnels, lead magnets, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure you obviously know Russell Brunson, like some of his work and things like that.
Yeah. ClickFunnels, yeah.
Yeah, but I really like his mindset when you mentioned, oh, I'm not doing websites, but I like his mindset of like every page on a website is just a landing page. It has a goal. It's trying to achieve something. So it's like just seeing a website as a collection of landing pages.
Well, I think people are starting to see that more often, especially if you're in the SEO space, right? So SEO, you're essentially looking at every single page on a website separately and treating it as its own potential landing page for traffic to come in on.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. And so you kind of got introduced to the sponsorship world back at uni. You were saying that was kind of a bit of a focus of your thesis, and that's what introduced you to that whole world of things.
Yeah, so I originally was in the army straight out of school, and I found myself lost in the army after about 3 years, just kind of wondering, man, like, what am I doing with my life? And that's when there was a university in the town where I was based, or in the city where I was based in the army. My girlfriend at the time was at university, and so I just kind of, through talking to her and meeting her friends, I thought I would quit the army and go to university. I originally went to university to become a vet, because I was like, wow, what do I really like? I was like, I really like animals, so I'll go become a vet. And so I just enrolled in a business degree and started doing you can choose electives from outside of your degree. So you get a certain amount of, they call them electives, which are subjects you take outside of your degree to help broaden your knowledge. And I decided to do my electives in vet papers like chemistry and biology, just to see if I liked it. And I didn't like it. I hated chemistry and biology. And then I found out that the degree itself took 5 years, and I'm like, there's no way I'm going to do papers like this and subjects like this for 5 years.
Yeah.
And so I just thought, oh, I'll just carry on with my business degree. So I started doing, you got to do mandatory papers in business, like accounting and finance and economics and stuff, and I hated that as well. And I was just like, man, like, but I didn't want to make another mistake. I didn't want to quit. So my first year at uni, I hated it, and I was just like, man, I'm literally just going to do this degree so I can say I've got a degree, and I'm going to go work in the mines in Australia and earn like $100,000 a year just working underground in the coal mines or in the gold mines or whatever. But then I got introduced, I just randomly, there was a lecturer in one of my fundamental papers, he started talking around management, sort of specialties that you can go down, and he was talking around tourism management and all this other stuff. And then he talked about sport business management, where you could work in the sports industry. And I was like, oh man, that sounds cool. And so I enrolled in that for my degree, and instantly fell in love with it. And I was like, man, this is so cool. And then, yeah, real quick, I just noticed there's a massive gap in the sponsorship industry for people who know what they're doing. And I was like, right, I'm going to do that. That's my way to the top.
Awesome. And that was still focused on sports and things like that. Like you were thinking more about those types of businesses and organizations.
Yeah, correct. So originally when I started that degree, I wanted to be the CEO of the All Blacks, the All Blacks rugby team. So yeah, so that was my goal. And then I spent 15 years sort of working in sports and then into corporate. So I worked for like rugby union there. I worked for Winter Olympics, Rugby World Cup. Worked for another sport organization, worked for Cricket World Cup, and then went to corporate where I started actually managing big sponsorship portfolios.
Oh, well, so you did find a nice crossover between, like you're saying, the sponsorship type work and funding type work and the love of sports and all that for quite a while.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, it was great.
Awesome. I mean, and a big thing I'm always curious about is in regards to like mentors of sorts. Was there kind of someone along that journey who was almost like a mentor for you or like a coach type of thing?
In the sponsorship realm at university, there was obviously my lecturers that were really good. And then my first bosses I thought were quite good. Then the sponsorship space is there's not a lot of experts or quality experts in that space, which is why I think I pursued it. But one of the best people that I ever learned from or really admired the work they did was a lady called 𝗟𝗶ጵ𝗿𝘃𝗶𝗃𝗄. And she just teaches best practice sponsorship. That's probably the best way to put it, but she's an expat American who lives in Australia, and she produces some really good thought leadership in the sponsorship space.
Oh, okay, cool. And in regards to like the stuff she was putting out, kind of what were some of your big takeaways or mindsets or lessons from some of that thing?
Big things that she was teaching was just around how to measure, like, because sponsorship can quite often be seen as an intangible benefit a lot of the time. Like, people just assume, if you align yourself with a sports team that everyone loves, that naturally they're going to love your brand. But, from a business point of view, you want to measure stuff, and you want to measure return on investment. You want to show that it's impacting sales. You want to show that it's having a positive effect for your business. Otherwise, what's the point in investing in it, right?
Yeah.
And she, I think, talks a lot around how to do a lot of that stuff. And she also cements this mindset of, putting the customer at the heart of everything you do. So she's really against a lot of these poor sponsorship practices that you'll see where you'll be in the middle of watching a UFC fight or a rugby game, and then some insurance sponsor comes in and starts talking around getting car insurance. Yeah. It's the most appalling experience ever, right? You're like, I'm here to watch rugby, I'm here to watch the UFC, I'm here to watch whatever I'm here to watch. I don't want to hear about your dumb insurance promotion right now. And so she really advocates against doing what's right for the customer, and that's how you generate a positive return. And so I thought that was really good.
Okay, cool. So if I had to like summarize it, like her big kind of focus was, firstly, whatever you're doing with the sponsorship, it needs to align with the customers who are part of that organization, etc. But then also being able to measure, like now that we're at least putting the correct things in front of the correct customer, is it having an impact on the business? Is it growing revenue? Is it growing profits? Is it bringing, X and Y?
Yeah, so she makes a really good business case for why putting the customer first is good for business and why that's the best way to go around sponsorship. And I guess her main, if she had to summarize it, it would be the main goal of sponsorship is to heighten the good things about that you love about a particular sponsor or about a particular event or charity or whatever, and alleviate the negative things that you don't like about it. So an example would be, let's say, for instance, you love sitting in a particular part of the stands, and so as a sponsor, you can make that even better and put on this whole cool event within the stands and give them free stuff. And so they're like, man, this is even better. And let's say a pain point is trying to get a park anywhere near the stadium, right? You hate driving there and trying to get a park. And so alleviating that pain might be that a sponsor puts on branded golf cars that pick you up from your car and drive you to the stadium, that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah, that's cool.
And so, like, let's say, for instance, you're a bank customer, bank sponsors the stadium or whatever. They put on branded golf cars, and in order to get on the golf car and get a lift from your car that's parked 3 or 4 kilometers away, you've just got to flash your branded bank card and they'll give you a lift, right? So they're heroing you as a customer. And let's say, for instance, they say you could bring 2 friends with you as well. So your friends are like hitting up their mates, be like, who's a customer of these guys? And man, that's awesome that they're giving us a lift. And I'm going to try bank with them so I can get a free ride.
Yeah, no, that's those like benefits. And like if your friend starts speaking about it or someone refers like, oh, I've got this, it was so much easier because of what they offer, you're going to be like, okay, let me check that out.
Yeah. So they had what was a real good example? Good example is they had a stadium over in Australia where I think it was Mazda or Nissan or something sponsored it. And they recognized that parking was a real pain in the butt for people. And so what they did as part of their sponsorship is they reserved like this big portion of car parks right by the stadium. But the rule was that only people who drove that particular car brand could get in there. Yeah. And what they found is that people were ringing around all their mates trying to figure out who drove Mazdas so they could go in their car to get to the stadium, right? And so they're getting people trialing Mazdas, loving Mazdas, talking about Mazdas. And not only that, like students who had crappy beat up cars were like painting Mazda logos on their cars to try and get into these premium parks, right? So
that's wild. I haven't heard that story before. That's really, really cool.
Yeah, there's heaps of things like that. Yeah. And then from the digital marketing side of things, I would say my biggest mentors to date have been a couple in Australia called Matt and Liz Rard. They're just, they are probably the best people I've come across. They're so genuine. I like them because they're married, they work as a team. They've got, they have a great life with their family. And once you're kind of within their fold, like it doesn't matter if you've done some work with them 5 years ago, 6 years ago, they'll still pick up the phone and talk to you today. Like they'll give you ongoing support, even though you paid them 5 years ago. And they make themselves available to people and they support everyone that's sort of worked with them over the years. And that to me, I think is quite rare. But two, I also just respect like the life they've built and their kind of ethos and values.
So it's that genuineness of wanting to actually help the people they've brought on as clients and customers.
Yeah, 100%, which online, that seems to be quite rare.
Yeah, I guess especially where you can kind of just throw things out, get a couple of sales, and then you're like, okay, disappear into the ether of the internet.
Yeah, correct. You've got this level of unaccountability on the internet.
Yeah. Okay, so you were working with you're working in businesses, and then you decided to go out on your own, correct?
Yeah, correct.
Yeah. And how long ago was that? Was that at the start of?
So I went out on my own in 2018, I think, 2017, 2018. That's when so I was running a digital marketing agency. I started that while I was working full time. So I was literally just doing that in my nights and weekends and trying to build that up. And then eventually I left my full-time job, I think it was 2018.
Amazing. I mean, what kind of created that urge of wanting to start your own thing and then eventually go out on your own?
What created that urge? What created that urge was actually one of my jobs previous to the last one I had. We ended up getting in a terrible manager who, like, I had this mindset because I was always a top performer, right? So I was always in the top 20%. Everything I did, everything I put my mind to, I'd always exceed. And like at every job I've ever had, like I've made an attempt to try and break as many records as I can and improve things as much as I can. And I've always had massive joy out of that. So in my mind, I had this mindset that, well, no one's going to get rid of me type thing because, you know, like I'm breaking records. I'm doing stuff that's never been done before. But I got in this manager who literally, she just had the biggest ego I've ever come across. She was real, just interested in power and control and belittling everyone. And, you know, I think the entire team ended up leaving, like 14 to 16 odd people. Majority of them ended up leaving the team over the years. But she basically came in, restructured the team, tried to get rid of everyone. She offered me a promotion, but just seeing how it all played out and seeing what she was like as a person, I was just like, listen, this isn't me. Like, I don't want to do this. And I don't want to work for that person. So I'm going to leave, and I'm happy to take my redundancy. And I think that really pissed her off because I think that she had a plan and I was part of the plan. And so she kind of turned on me and got nasty or whatever. And and then that to me really gave me a bit of a wake up call, a shock to be like, oh, wow, like my job's actually not as secure as I thought it was. And, you know, anyone who doesn't think the same way as me and has more power than me has the ability to take away my security and the ability to take away my future. And so that to me was like, well, I don't ever want to be in that situation again. I want to take matters into my own hand.
Yeah, having that control, especially when it sounds like you're already passionate about what you're doing and pushing the boundaries and really giving it your all, and then having someone still be able to just be like, oh, I'm going to take that all away from you type of thing.
Yeah, that was exactly it. Like, I loved doing what I did. I loved it. It was so cool.
Yeah. So after you kind of went out on your own, how did you, because I also like to, I like people to be able to watch these and think, okay, if I'm going to start my journey or like kind of what hurdles people went through, how did you go about getting those first couple of clients and new customers for your own thing?
Yeah, good question. I'm just trying to think back who my first client was. So I actually think my first client came from, I think that was my first client. But my first client, when I was working full time, I was sponsoring, or I was in charge of sort of managing some sponsorships with some big events in town. So we were sponsoring the city marathon. And there was other sponsors that were involved in the marathon as well. And I was just talking to them and made good relationships with them. And I was telling them what I was doing. I was saying, hey, this is what I'm doing. You know, I'm starting a digital marketing agency. I'm traveling to Australia every 3 months to upskill and do courses. I'm doing more coursework and all this kind of stuff. And then I noticed that then people would just start asking me questions around those subjects, and I would just give my 2 cents. And then one of the other sponsors was like, hey, do you want to rebuild our website for us? And I was like, yeah, cool.
You're like, hey, let's do it.
Yeah, so, and then I was just real busy then doing coursework and building their stuff and doing my full-time job. And
yeah,
so
yeah, sometimes, Sorry, what was that?
Sorry, I was just saying, and then after that, I started doing advertising as well and posting on social media, and that started bringing in some clients as well.
But the one thing you mentioned there, which really resonated with me, is just let people know what you're up to. It's like you don't always need to make the perfect marketing message. Just like, hey, this is what I'm up to. Maybe you find it interesting. This is what I'm doing. Maybe you find it interesting, type of thing.
Yeah. I was just talking about it, and people would go, "Oh, how's it going?" I'm like, "Yeah, it's cool. It's going good." Well, what do you think of this? Or what should we do here? I was like, "Oh, I'd do this. This is what I'd do."
Yeah, no, that's epic. And then from there on, it's just the ball kept on rolling. And now you're where you are today.
Yeah, definitely. But I mean, like, there's ups and downs the whole way through. You know, some months since then you don't really have anything coming in. Other months you're absolutely slammed.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's just a constant evolution. I think. You know, I look at the work that I was doing back then and the work I'm doing now, and I'm like, wow, it's evolved. So
yeah. Well, I mean, to kind of on that note as well, it's like right at this moment, kind of where's your passion line? Like, who are you? So you mentioned you like to work with SMEs for the digital marketing stuff, but if you kind of had to wrap it all up, like, who are you really enjoying working with at the moment? If people kind of wanted to, like, oh, Mike could help me with these type of things.
Yeah. So I really enjoy working with people who are wanting to build marketing and sales funnels, people who are wanting to build online courses. I'm really enjoying that stuff at the moment. People who want to release regular marketing campaigns. So maybe every 3 months you want to do like some kind of paid promotion or list building or some kind of special offer type stuff. I really like that. And inbound marketing, I really like that as well. So producing expert content and putting it out there, trying to attract your ideal client. So that's the kind of stuff I'm into at the moment.
And you mentioned that's with the SMEs, but do you like specific industries? Because obviously you've had that passion for the sports in the past and then charities, things like that.
Yeah, so at the moment, I quite enjoy working with service-based businesses. So in the B2B space, for me, it's not really a niche thing. It's more of a people thing. I like the service-based businesses because the way that those business models work, they lend themselves really well to automation, and they lend themselves really well to doing cool things online. Versus a lot of product related stuff revolves around advertising, heavy social media, and like a lot of price point stuff, and making products look cool. I wouldn't say I'm a very cool person. So, focusing on products or like, cheaper products and stuff like that isn't really, and e-commerce isn't kind of my thing.
Yeah. But it sounds like you do help a little bit in regards to price pointing, positioning type of thing.
To a degree, yes, but I like people to know their worth already and to know what they want to charge for it. I mean, like anything, I guess like anything, there's kind of a scale you can find within every industry where you can find cheapest of the cheap and you can find super expensive. So I think it's just about knowing where you sit within that. And I think if you struggle with that, actually getting like a brand strategist or someone like that to help you out is really helpful.
Okay, so
I think pricing is something that it's a separate part of work, really.
Yeah. Okay, so for you, it's service-based businesses who already know their offer to their customers. They've got their price point, but they just wanting to get things out in a better way, maybe a clearer way, in a smoother way. Would that be right?
Yeah, correct. Absolutely.
Awesome, man. Yeah, I mean, if people wanted to reach out to you, what's like the best way to go about that?
So there's my website, mikewootton.co, MikeWootton.co. So it's my website. I'm on LinkedIn as well. You can reach me on LinkedIn. And from the sponsorship side of things, it's sponsorshippantry.com.
Sponsorshippantry.com. Yeah, we'll include all the links in the notes. But yeah, I've really enjoyed talking kind of through your journey and how you you did have mentors of sorts, and kind of you had those mindsets which you've carried over now. Yeah, it was really interesting for me to see that crossover of you were working with people you were passionate about and stuff that you were enjoying skill wise, and then how that naturally kind of evolved with like a slight tipping point, and then you are here where you are now.
Yeah, here I am.
Awesome. Yeah, it's been really great. I appreciate the time.
All right, thanks. Appreciate it. It's been a good chat.